Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Neca Gargoyles Demona action figure. Now this has been a long time coming. They teased Demona a while ago, and she's finally in hand. I got this figure at Target as part of NECA's Haulathon. Starting March 18th, there were a bunch of NECA figures to get a first-time release at Target. I was able to find them all today. Sure, I had to hit several targets to accomplish that goal, but I'm happy with the end result. First target had 3 figures I wanted. Second one had 1 more. I had to call about 8 targets to locate Demona. It almost seemed like each store got 1, and they sold pretty quickly. But here she is. So let's go and check out the packaging. As you can see, Disney's Gargoyles Demona Ultimate action figure. Here she is, flying in the New York skies. Gargoyles Demona, one side. Here's the figure posed up. Other side, similar pose. The bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. On the back side, you can see Demona, several different display options, and here are a bunch of other, either already released or upcoming gargoyle figures. Can't wait to complete the Manhattan Clan. So this is one of NECA's Ultimate figures. Window box packaging. You can hear the Velcro on the inside flap. Got Demona there. And here she is in the package. Looks like she has a rocket launcher, blaster gun, bunch of hands, removable tail, alternate head, and the Grimoire Akinora. So with no further ado, let's open her up. Now before we continue on with this review, I just wanted to say that Gargoyles is my favorite cartoon ever. I'm a huge Batman fan, and that's my favorite thing. But I even like Gargoyles more than Batman the Animated Series, and that is a bold statement. And this figure was part of a huge haul I got today from Target. First store I went to, they had the Pizza Mutation Monster, the Black and White Wolfman, and Griff from Back to the Future. Went to another Target, they had the same figures, plus the Evil Dead. Went to another Target, they had the same figures and nothing else. So I got a little frustrated, started calling all the figures, as Demona was the one I wanted the most out of this group. After calling about 7 targets, I finally found a store that had 1 Demona. They were kind enough to hold it for me. Went down there, got her, and here we go. Now there's one other figure that I think is going to be available at NECA's Haulathon, and that's the Boys Black Noir. Really cool looking figure. Have to keep my eyes out for that one. But the main one I wanted here is Demona, and I'm happy to check off the list. Alright, now that we have this figure out of the package, here she is with all of her accessories laid out. She does come with 4 alternate hands, totaling 6 interchangeable hands, 2 different faces, some removable wings, a removable tail, then a laser gun, a rocket launcher, and her book of spells called the Grimoire Akinora. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Demona from Gargoyles. She was Goliath's love interest 1,000 years ago, and in the modern day and age, she's his enemy. Demona was voiced by Marina Sirtis, commonly known as Deanna Troi from Star Trek The Next Generation. So let's take a look at her. And I'll tell you, my first thoughts, this figure looks fantastic. She has a signature, big, almost sort of 80s hair. She's got her tiara or crown. I almost feel like the face looks kind of like Marina Sirtis. Maybe I'm just crazy. Pointed ears. You can see the hair is very long, goes down. Very soft, you can move it around. Her earrings are separate. You can see they kind of move there. Nice smiling face here. The detail on her loincloth and her little shirt, very nicely done. A little tear here. A lot of texturing there. She's got that sort of bracelet on her bicep here, just like in the show. And it's not part of the plastic, it's a separate piece added on. Looks like double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, little ankle bracelet as well, and it's a separate metal piece, you can move it around. Giant ass feet. Looks like we got articulation both the waist and in the torso. You can see where the tail is going to connect inside there. I think she looks absolutely fantastic. The figure almost looks better than the animation for the show. And then, just a closer look at her face or head sculpt. Drop me a line in the comments below. Tell me if I'm crazy. She looks kind of like Marina Sirtis. She has this evil look to her. Devious, plotting, scheming, just like Demona. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as you can go, with all of her removable parts detached. And in case anyone is curious about the makeshift castle background, the two doorways on either side are Mezco 112 collective Frankenstein doorways, and the large doorway in the middle is a Mezco Silent Screamers doorway that came with a golem. They make for a really nice castle background. Before we look at her accessories, let's talk about her feet. Her feet are giant. Now it's really easy to stand her up with her feet being completely flat like this, but that's not the right way to stand a gargoyle. The right way for a gargoyle to stand is going to be on her toes like this. Now it's a balancing act, but once you add the tail, it pretty much acts as a makeshift stand for the figures. Now let's take a look at her accessories, and let's start off with her tail. Now let's look at her tail. It's one solid long blue piece. You can see the peg here where it's going to attach into her back. Not only is it going to attach there and rotate, but it's hinged. It has these little holes here. It's made of a soft, bendy material. As you can see, it has a bendy wire inside. It'll hold pretty much all the poses you want. Here's Demona without the tail. It's going to attach into a little hole in her butt there. And here she is with the tail attached. Like I said before, it's got articulation, its hinge goes up and down, and it can rotate. Also has a bendy wire, take any pose you want, and it's going to act pretty nicely as a makeshift stand for the figure, which is really useful with their heavy wings. And speaking of her wings, let's look at those next. Her wings are large, they're massive, they're not the same wings as Goliath, but they have some of the same issues. Frankly, they're too big, and they're too heavy. They don't stay in her back quite right. Beyond that, they are some gorgeous looking items. At the top you can see this sort of little talon thing. Looks like an extra little hand. It should be articulated based off how it looks, but it's not. It's simply stuck on there. But it's unique to Demona. Now it'll peg into there. It can rotate. It's going to be hinged. You can see the texturing on the inside. Very well done. Outside, a little bit darker. The wings are made of a hard plastic. Here's Demona without her wings. And here she is with her wings attached. Now you may notice they're not symmetrical, they're crooked. Well, I mentioned earlier, she has all the same flaws that Goliath does as far as the wings go. Tell you the truth, she's the worst one. They fucked her wings up pretty bad. I cannot get this one to stay in the position at all. That's how I would like to have her pose. It simply just falls right back down. I can kind of get this side to stay when it's up high, but I cannot get it to stay like this. I've been messing with it for about 10 minutes. It's already loose, and it's not like I've had this figure posed up for a while. I just opened her today. Now, I guess I can push them both down if I want them to look symmetrical. That doesn't look too awful, but I really think they should look about like this when she's on top of a building. But look at that. Come on. Now my Goliath and Thalog, their wings have definitely suffered over time. They don't hold the pose very well. They're just frankly too heavy and too big for the figures. I wish Neca had figured something else out with the wings. I mean, a bendy wire and some cloth wings. I'm not sure if that's the right solution. I don't really have the answer, but I know this is a problem. And yes, Goliath is going to get some alternate wings in the future with Bronx, and that is great. But what about Thalog? What about Demona? What about all the other gargoyles? Or we have to buy a bunch of different wing packs, because that sucks. These figures are already expensive as it is. These figures are gorgeous, but my god, they did not execute the wings well. They look great, but they just are not practical and do not work very well. Too big, too heavy, too loose. And look at her, such a fantastic figure with such a big flaw. In addition to this, the wings do have articulation. As you can see, they can rotate up and down. They're hinged. They can go back about that far, back in. You can hear them kind of locking into place. Always get a little concerned I'm going to break them when they're like that. But of course, they're tight right now. They get loose very easily. Now another drawback, and this really applies to all the figures, but it's worse with her. When the wings are attached, she just looks down. I don't like that at all. You really want her looking about like this to look right, but with her hair being so long, once you attach the wings, her hair sits back there and it pushes her head forward. Now, I can probably heat up her hair and make it something like this so it'll look up, but as is, force her to look down. The wings are too big, too loose, and they affect the way her head is displayed. So I hate to say it, it's a fail as far as these wings go. Love the way she looks. Great figure, but I'm very frustrated with these wings. Her wings can go as high as this. They might look cool with her kind of gliding down, kicking somebody with a flight stand. And they can be as low as this, and pretty much anywhere in between, if you can get them to stay in place. Come on. Her wings can go back as far as this by using the hinge. Don't really see a lot of use for the wings going this far back. Also makes her really, really heavy, leaning backward. The tail's not even enough to keep her standing. I have the wing leaning against the brick wall back here. And I'm sure there are ways to tighten up that peg back there. On mine, the right wing is the issue. The left wing is not so bad. So maybe other people aren't having as many problems. But it's very frustrating. Such a gorgeous figure. Such problems. If you guys have an easy fix, drop me a line in the comments below. I'm just trying to find some way to wedge her hair between the wings. Maybe make it really tight and help the right wing hold up. It'll also keep her head held up with the same process. This is about the best I can get. Holds up, but just barely. And of course, if I try to even out the other wing, it's all going to come crashing down. Now let's look at her hands. She has a total of 6 of them. Here she is with her first pair of hands. These are her fists. Here she is with her second pair of hands. Her right hand is a gripping hand with a trigger finger, and her left hand looks like it can support the gun. And here's her third pair of hands. These are her claw hands. They'd be good for climbing or scratching. Now let's look at her faces. She has 2 of them. One has a smiling expression, and one has an angry expression with the mouth open and the eyes lit up. Here she is with her first face. This is a more normal expression. This is the one I'll have in her most of the time. And here she is with her angry face, mouth open, eyes lit up, looking very menacing. And here she is with no face attached. Looks very odd. The articulation goes straight into the hair. She has 2 little holes there for the pegs on the face. Looks very odd. Now let's look at her guns. Here's your large laser cannon. Had to actually look online to figure out which side was the back and the front. Here's the front. Presumably shoots out of here. Kind of where she's going to hold it at the trigger. It has a lot of nice detail to it. It's very large. Here's Demona holding this energy weapon. She can hold it with either one hand or with 2. Now we have a rocket launcher. Another very large accessory. You can see the handle down there, the trigger. It's got some weathering on it. It's got the scope on one side. The front, you can see where the rocket would come out. Here's Demona holding her rocket launcher. It's really designed to be held with 2 hands. It's supposed to be over her shoulder like so. And then you can have her eye looking through the scope. Now let's look at her spellbook. This is called the Grimorum Arcanorum. Originally, it was owned by the Magus, and has been passed down to many different hands over the Gargoyle show. Demona used it several times. You can see the front here. Book looks very old, very weathered. Has this clip giving it shut. You can see the different pages. Sculpting is pretty nice, but that's not all. You can sort of move the clip a little bit out of the way, and this thing is hinged. It can completely open up. Looks fantastic. I could see myself getting a ton of use out of this in my action figure world. This is the actual book that turned the gargoyles into stone for 1,000 years and really created the entire premise of the show. 1,000-year-old ancient gargoyles in modern-day New York. Here's Demona holding and reading the remora. That's actually, I guess, one benefit from the wings. Push your head down to read the book. Now let's take a pretty good look at both the figure and her accessories. Now let's check out her height. From bottom to the top of her head, when standing on her feet the right way, she's standing at about 7.75 inches tall, which is going to translate to about 19.5 centimeters. And if you want to see her wingspan from the widest 2 points, about 14.5 inches wide. Now let's check out her articulation. Everything was pretty smooth except for the bottom of the 2 joints in her elbow. Had to put her into hot water for both, and it's still really tight. So starting with her head here, can rotate from side to side. She can look up and down about that far. Can tilt her head from one side to the other. Give them good round personality. Now we already looked at the wings. They're able to rotate and they're hinged as well. I'm going to get them out of the way for the rest of the articulation. Onto her shoulders here. On a ball joint. Goes at a good 90 degrees. Up, down, around, all that good stuff. She has a bicep cut below that. Rotation. Double jointed elbows. Here's the top part going in. And there's the bottom part. Both of them. Her wrists can rotate. And it's going to be hinged as well. Ball joint in her torso. Rotate around. Go forward and back. Traditional waist cut here. Rotate. Tail. It can rotate around. And it's hinged. Also, bendy wire, take any pose. Legs, go out about this far. Ball joints in here. She can rotate independently against the ball joint. Legs go forward about that far. Back, about that much. Double jointed knees, they go all the way back. Their ankle here, forward and back. Can tilt, rock. No real rotation. And she has a toe articulation. Here's Demona walking up to you with her claws out and her angry face. Here's Demona climbing up the side of a building. And here's Demona on a rooftop overlooking Manhattan. Here's Demona on top of a castle looking down. Here's Demona in her lover's arms. Goliath is holding her. This would have been 1,000 years ago when they were a couple. This works a lot better without the wings. And then 1,000 years later, she falls in love with the clone of Goliath, Thalog. Of course, Thalog's a tricky bastard and betrays even Demona. Here's Demona next to a couple of McFarlane DC Multiverse Batman and Hellbat armor figures. These are some pretty good substitutes for Xanatos' Steel Clan robots. Demona has her own clan, at least for now. Of course, Demona's sitting there with her wings sagging down and her face looking low. Just the way it is of this figure. And look at this. McFarlane made a couple of figures with large, giant plastic wings, and they have no problems like the NECA ones. They have little notches in the pegs. Might have been a good idea, NECA. Figure is gorgeous, and I know I'm beating this dead horse with a stick, and I'm going to keep beating it till the stick breaks. But man, did they mess up these wings. They look so good, the figure looks so good, but the wings are just botched. Now let's check her out next to some other action figures. Starting off with some other Gargoyles figures. Here are all 3 of the Gargoyles figures they've made so far. Goliath, Demona, and Thalog. Gorgeous figures. And I thought my Goliath was bad, but he can actually hold his wings out still. Demona's right wing can really not hold up. It's just being held by Goliath right now. And then Thalog's left wing has the exact same problem. Gorgeous figures. Love them to death. But man, they need some sort of solution for these wings. And the fact that, look, Goliath, Thalog, and Demona, they're all sort of forced to look down when their wings are outstretched. And here are the 3 figures together without their wings. God, they look so good. And their heads are looking forward without the wings. As much as I like the wings and I prefer with the wings on, God, I might have to just use them like this. I'll have to really look hard and see if there are some custom wings out there that could really solve some of the problems. Beyond the quality control, the wings drooping, the heads looking down, it also just makes them so big it's hard for them to interact with each other. Now let's check her out, next to some different various castle dioramas. Like I said at the beginning of the video, in front of you, these are two Mezco 112 Collective Frankenstein doorways, and one Mezco Silent Screamers giant golem doorway. And here she is, in front of the old Kenner Gargoyles Castle. Then, in front of the Mattel He-Man Masters of the Universe Classics large-scale Castle of Grayskull. Here's Demona in the Extreme Sets Dungeon diorama. This thing is a great, very roomy, spacious castle diorama. Perfect for gargoyles. Here's what I meant by the figures having trouble interacting with each other because of how large the wings are. This diorama is pretty exceptional. It is very large and spacious. The gargoyles would never have the wings outstretched like this if they were inside a building. They're only good for one thing when they're on a rooftop. You can see it'd be pretty much impossible to have the entire clan inside of a building like this. Maybe two gargoyles. I hope Neca gives us a workaround with these wings. Now let's check her out next to some other gargoyle type action figures. Here she is with a bunch of different Man-Bat figures. These guys could work as some supplemental gargoyles in different various clans. Here she is next to the Neca Bat Gremlin from Gremlins 2. And here she is next to Mattel's Bat Creature from Batman vs. Superman. And then next to Neca's Wingnut from their animated Ninja Turtle line. Here's Demona next to a couple of McFarlane Batman and Hellbat armor figures. Like I said before, they make for some good substitutes for some Xanatos Steel Clan robots. And you know Neca's going to get around to making those. And I thought these McFarlane Witcher figures could make for some pretty cool gargoyle hunters from back in the day. Thinking like Macbeth or the Hunter's Moon. Here are all the figures I got from Neca's Target Holothon event. These are all the figures I wanted I got on day one. I went back to some of the Targets, and pretty much everything was sold out. I'm not certain, but I think Neca's The Boys Black Norris tied to the Holothon event. Hopefully he'll be coming out in the near future. Now let's check her out next to some action figures from different various companies to see how she fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix her with. Gargoyles are supposed to be a little bit larger than humans. Since she's a Neca figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect and work my smaller, but we're going to start off with some other Neca figures. Here she is with some of her Neca brothers and sisters. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from Neca toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, with some more Neca toys. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here she is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. Then, next to some McFarlane toys. And here she is, with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. Then, with some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. And here she is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse figures. And here, with some Mafex figures. Then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here she is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, this is a very nice figure, but she is not without her flaws. Sculpt and paint job are excellent, no issues there. Articulation's pretty good. Accessories are also really cool. The only issue is her wings, the quality control there, the fact that they won't stay upright, the fact that they make her head look down, the fact that they're honestly just too large to really work properly. If it weren't for the wings, if they worked perfect, I'd give this thing a 9 out of 10 easy. But with the issues with the wings, God, she probably deserves a 6 out of 10. I'm still going to give her an 8 out of 10. I absolutely love this figure. I love gargoyles. Really happy to have her off my list. If you take the wings out, the figure's excellent. And I think mine is just an exceptionally bad version. Drop me a line in the comments below. Let me know if you're having as much trouble as I am, or if yours are a little better. Either way, I bet you're having some trouble. Looking forward to completing the Manhattan Clan. Looking forward to seeing more figures. Elisa, Xanatos, Coldstone, Macbeth. The Pack. Bring 'em on. So this is D. Hunter, Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add it to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.